Hey everybody, it's Tyler. Today we're talking about what living out of my camper for 3 weeks taught me about life. I went on a cross-country road trip to live out of my camper for 3 weeks, and it changed my perspective on life, possessions, and things that actually matter to me. The number one most important thing that I learned is that the experiences that you have matter more than anything. You can't take anything with you when you go, but the one thing you can and you will remember is the experiences that you have. All the things that you buy, the things you use, I guess sometimes they're important to help you have experiences, but it's really all just things. The most important thing is to look back on good memories that you have and experiences that you've had. The whole point, honestly, of this trip was to have experiences. Experiences are by far more important than anything else you could ever buy. You don't remember the things you own. You remember the places you've been, the people you went there with, and the times you had while you were there. So it's very important to get out, have those experiences. That's what's really important. That's what you're going to look back and remember when you're old. And you don't have any more time to have any more experiences. You may have money to buy stuff, but you're out of time and you can't enjoy any more new experiences. And you might not be physically able to enjoy any experiences. So while you're physically able to, it's important to get out there and enjoy it as much as you can. The next thing, this probably applies to any van lifers or any people like that, is you don't need nearly as much stuff as you think you do. I made it 3 weeks just surviving on the things that I had in my camper, and that's not very much. There's a lot of stuff I left at home. I'm very guilty of having way too much stuff. I have too many hobbies. I have too many projects. It's an issue I have. I'm trying to kind of minimize things. A lot of the stuff that I have at home, I don't really need. And especially someone who, I live in a pretty small house, so it takes up space, not only in your house, but in your mind, having that many things. So being in a camper for 3 weeks, realizing that you don't actually need to use all of those things that you have kind of made me come home and sell off a few things because I realized I don't need them. I have so many hobbies. I go surfing, I go snowboarding. I tried mountain biking. I'm not very good at it. I have an electric dirt bike. I have a race car. I have too many things. I really do. I can admit it. Being gone for 3 weeks and realizing I could have the time of my life without any of those things that I left at home really made an impression on me and kind of made me want to downsize my life and just focus on what's important rather than all the things that I do have, that after not needing them for 3 weeks, I realized I have no need for any of this stuff. This next one is an important one, is that mental health has to be a priority. At the time I went on this trip, I'd been working a job for I think 9 years, and probably for the past 5 years of it, I had absolutely hated it. And it was tough on me, but it was a good paying job with good benefits. So I really didn't leave for that long and just kind of suffered through it. And my mental health kind of had been suffering because of it. I just woke up every day dreading to go to work, and this 3 week trip was really what was keeping me going at that point because it was something for me to look forward to. And at that point I'd never had that much time off basically since I was 15, so it was a really important thing to be able to have 3 weeks where I don't have to do or think about anything related to work. And as the trip was going on, I realized that my neck aches and headaches that I constantly had were gone. I've been driving for 14, 15 hours a day. I should be in pain. My neck should be killing me. My shoulders should be killing me just from driving that much, but it didn't. And that made me realize that my job was the cause of all those things. So it made me kind of take a break and like reset to like a base level, because I just had been on like such like a higher level of stress for so long that I didn't realize what the base level of life should be. That was important. It was good for my mental health to get 3 weeks away and really think about and reprioritize things. When I came back, I think we got back in the beginning of September, and at the end of October, I had actually moved on to a new job. So that 3 weeks really gave me some time to think about my life and think about how my job, even though it was a good job on paper, it was really negatively affecting me. Some people, anyone who's worked a crappy job probably understands. But if you haven't, it may seem kind of silly from the outside looking in to leave a job like that. This trip really made me prioritize my mental health and think about what's important to me. Even now I can look back at this trip, and even that kind of is like a soothing thing. And it gives me something to look forward to. I don't have any other trips this big planned at the moment, but it does give me something to look forward to, because at some point in life, I'm going to go back and do something similar to this. That gives me something to look forward to because it was such an important thing to me. Campers are a tight space, and tight spaces for long periods of time can test most relationships, even the strongest ones. I've been with my wife almost 10 years at this point, so we have a pretty strong relationship. But when you're in that tight quarters with someone for that long, and you really don't have any other options, I guess, to go anywhere else. If I get her mad, I don't know where she's going to go. I guess she could go in the bunk and I could go in the bed, or I could go in the truck and she could go in the camper. There really is no other option, so you better get along. It made me realize that I chose the right person to be surviving a trip like that for that long in tight quarters. And honestly, kind of stressful at times because you're somewhere very far from home where you're not familiar with. Things can go wrong. You might get lost. It's like a high pressure environment to be able to test a relationship with someone. So if you're going to be living in tight quarters with somebody for that long, you better hope you have a strong relationship, and hopefully it stays that way even when that trip is over. Even just like when she's cooking dinner for me to sit down behind the table, I can't do anything in there without brushing up against her. So it's really, yeah, you just have to make sure that it tests relationships, but hopefully it's in a good way. By the way, it might be tough to tell behind me. We're getting 2 feet of snow here today in Massachusetts. So it's a blizzard outside, which is pretty cool. Kind of makes things inconvenient around here, but nice to get a good snowstorm at least once a year up here because it doesn't seem to happen that often lately. The other thing I learned while traveling the country for 3 weeks is that the diversity between states is absolutely insane. Every state is different in their own way. Cover a lot of ground and there's a lot of different areas. I come from the East Coast where everything's covered in trees, and when you get out west, there's not nearly as many trees. That's something that is just odd to me. I'm used to everywhere that trees can grow here. Unless somebody mows them, there's trees. It's just how it works around here. And when we were driving through Wyoming and Kansas and it's just flat rolling hills with grass on it, that was something new to me. You'd see patches of trees, but they would only be like at like a riverbed or something like that. So that's usually where people lived, is they just kind of huddle around the water. But it was just interesting to see different parts of the country and just different ways that people live, different ways that people talk. Every state was different. I mean, I enjoyed all of them in their own way. Out west, they call it Big Sky Country. I think in Montana, they call it Big Sky Country, something like that. But you get it when you're there. I mean, I knew it'd be empty, but the big sky, it makes sense because there's no trees, it's just open fields, and the sky does feel a whole new kind of big out there. And I've been to like northern Maine where it's also empty, but it's not empty because there's trees everywhere and there's forests everywhere, and you can't really see exactly how empty it is because there's so many trees and everything around. Just the diversity in the country, from driving from here to Montana, you feel like you're in a whole nother world, but you're in the same country and people still speak the same language as you. They might sound a little funny, and I might actually sound funny to them because of the way that I talk. It's just very different even though you're in the same country, which is why I'm a big fan of just traveling within the country. I think it's important to get out in your own country and travel because there's so much to see. Living out of my camper for 3 weeks kind of changed my priorities in life and changed my goals. I kind of wanted to retire early and kind of make enough money to be able to not have to worry about my job, just for the sake of having enough money. Now I realize the money is not really the thing if you don't have a good reason. The most important thing is time and freedom. It made me want to simplify my life. It made me realize that all the stuff I had was pointless. I don't really need it if I don't have the time to use any of it. So when I got back, I actually traded in one of my cars I had, which was probably more expensive than a car that I should have owned. I traded that in and ended up getting a much cheaper car so I could get rid of a car payment. I ended up switching careers in order to kind of get myself more freedom. I was a mechanic for 9 years. I actually enjoyed working on cars, but I didn't enjoy doing it as a job. I still do it on the side and at home all the time. But I ended up leaving my career as a mechanic to start being a damage appraiser for like collision repair. That way, someday I can get a job working from home and spend more time with my family. I knew it'd kind of take a while. We're kind of still working on getting better at that new career change, but this kind of was almost like the catalyst for me making this career change in my life, was to be able to spend more time with my family. Now my goal is to be able to just take as much trips as I can. We still have our camper. The whole point of buying our camper was for this trip, but now we use this camper to go on local weekend trips whenever we can. We go to the state parks in New Hampshire. There's a local state park right by the beach. My sister also has a camper, so we go camping with them sometimes. But it made me prioritize the nice simple trips where you just go out in a camper and relax. I'm not going to all inclusives and Cancun or anything like that, just because you can vacation simpler and cheaper and kind of save money and use it for more important things. I guess this trip kind of contributed to me starting a YouTube channel, even though I had quite a delayed response when I did this trip a year or two ago. We filmed a lot of the trip, but not in a way that was very YouTube friendly. I kind of just took clips of while we were hiking, but never really any me talking to the camera, because me talking to the camera is still a thing I'm working on. It kind of sparked my quest to be able to start my own business and start my own thing, which is kind of the number one way to be able to get your own freedom and make your own schedule. Kind of changed my course of life. Instead of just trying to make as much money as possible, as fast as possible, I kind of changed it to be able to try to still make money, but still make it in a way that gave me the most freedom with my time as possible. And then eventually, hopefully, if I get freedom, maybe whether it be through YouTube, through a business I start, or just through my job and saving money, be able to use that time and freedom in order to spend time with my family. What I expected to get out of this trip was really just a vacation and sightseeing and just seeing some beautiful things. But I really got like a full life reset. Maybe like this is like a quarter life crisis, I guess. I was 26 at the time, so that, I mean, nobody lives to be 100, but all right, a 1/3 life crisis. Maybe that's what this was. It was a reset because I've been working nonstop since I was 15. I had my 2 weeks off for my honeymoon, but that was for a honeymoon and a wedding, so it's kind of so much that you don't really get the time to think. But this is the most time off I'd had since I was like 15, so it was definitely a reset and gave me more time to think than I really ever had. I thought it would just be a vacation to be able to enjoy as much as possible, which I did. I had a great time. I saw some things that were amazing and we had some really memorable times, but it really just reset my whole life at a third life crisis, I guess. I mean, if that's the third life crisis, that's pretty sweet, but maybe we can look at it as a third life crisis because it really kind of made me rethink things and course correct. If I had to go back and do this trip again, well, hopefully someday I get to. I'm saying if I have to, as if it's like a bad thing. Um, if I did this trip again, what I do differently is I wouldn't drive for as long. The drive there wasn't that bad, but on the way home, we drove basically straight from Glacier National Park, which is in northwest Montana, all the way back to Massachusetts. So it's 38 hours of driving. We were basically in the car driving with stops and everything for 16 hours, 3 days in a row. And that was just way too much. I would definitely find a place to stop. I mean, probably could have found somewhere along the Great Lakes to stop. That would have been cool. We stopped at Mount Rushmore, but we were there for like a half hour. We didn't really stop and spend time anywhere. We just drove and slept at rest areas for 3 days straight, and that sucked. So I would definitely change that. That was the hardest part about the trip, was being confined to a truck for 14 hours. Well, probably 16 hours a day is tough. But that was just the way that I did the trip. That was my version of traveling. I just kind of cannonball. It's not really a great thing, but we're trying to make up time. It's great. Living out of a camper is definitely not for everybody. It worked for me. That's probably my favorite way of traveling. But if you value things and you need to bring a lot of things when you go traveling, wouldn't recommend traveling in a camper for 3 weeks. If you're one of those people who likes a relaxing vacation, wouldn't do that either, because you're not going to be sipping Mai Tais by the pool. You're going to be driving for long periods of time, kind of working, I guess, when you set up and take down, and you're in charge of your own destiny. You're not just plopped somewhere nice and free to relax. There's a lot more involved to it. This is the vacation that I like, so this is what I chose to do, but I could see why other people would not agree with me at all. So in conclusion, living out of a camper for 3 weeks, it didn't just change the way that I prefer to travel now, it also changed my perspective on life. It served as a reset to me because I'd been working a high stress job in a high stress environment for so long that I didn't really have a good baseline. And this trip kind of gave me my baseline back to really rethink things. Taught me that experiences are the number one most important thing in life. That's what you should be chasing your whole life, is enjoyable and fulfilling experiences. Also taught me that you don't need that much stuff. If I could live on what I fit in a small 20-foot travel trailer for 3 weeks, that shows that a lot of the stuff that I have at home is not necessary. Taught me that mental health is a priority. It should be a priority for everyone, whether you're camping or not. It's even when you get home, mental health is important. If you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. It's important to be in a good space in your head. I know it's easier said than done, but it should be prioritized by everybody. Living in tight spaces can test a relationship in a good way. I live in a small house with my wife, but that's nothing compared to being trapped all the way across the country in a small travel trailer together for 3 weeks. There's a huge amount of diversity in our country between different states. As you get out west, there's so much different things that you can see. People live different lives than yours. It's just very different out there compared to where you live. And it also just changed my goals in life, kind of gave me a new perspective on what I wanted to do in life and what my vision of being successful in life was. It's not about having money and fancy cars and being rich. It's about having the time to spend with the people that are important to you, and having the freedom to be able to take adventures like this as often as possible. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to subscribe for another one, hopefully we should be able to get out and do some camping if this weather ever clears up. But it's about the time where we start booking trips for the summer, so I'm excited for that. And just getting out and enjoying some adventures this year, because I have a new baby and he's got to get involved in some of this stuff now. He might not remember it, but we got to take him out and make sure he has some fun too. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. If you want to comment, if you went on a road trip or went on a vacation that kind of had a change or an impact on your life, comment, tell me about it. love to hear about it. But yeah, thank you everybody. Have a wonderful day.